America. A country founded on the principles of individualism, natural rights, and small government. This great American experiment that has carried on now for close to 244 years is now at threat at becoming a home to the rich, greedy, and powerful. And yes, sure, you may say, it's always been like that. People have always coalesced power at the top. And yeah, people have and always will be at the top, but where we as a species have evolved and become more dependent on the internet, our ability to discern facts from agendas and lies has gotten weaker and 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 weaker. Now, you may ask yourself, what is the point of this video? To tell you that the government's bad? To tell you that the media shouldn't be trusted? You already know that. The point of this video is to educate the people who don't know, to use examples even up into the present day, and to help the country going forward. Why? Because if we don't do this, we can't help our country in a time of need. So, let's begin. Picture you're in Seattle walking home after a long night. The year is 2009, and you are coming home to your wife. Next thing you know, a police officer has just rammed you against the wall, causing serious brain damage and putting you in a coma. Why? Not because you did anything wrong, but because that same police officer mistook you for a criminal. This is exactly what happened to Christopher Harris, a Seattleite, who would end up in a coma lasting 6 years until his death. Now, what about the police officer? Nothing. He didn't get charged, he didn't lose his job. He still works as an officer. What about another example? Fast forward to September 16th, 2016. The victim, Terrence Crutcher. Following a call to the police about an abandoned vehicle, officers approach Crutcher as he moves towards his vehicle. Crutcher, unarmed, poses no threat to the police, but despite this, he would be both tased and shot to death shortly after. The police officer? She would be charged with first-degree manslaughter, but then later acquitted, leaving an innocent man dead and no justice served. Now, we come to today. George Floyd. Look, if you don't know what happened, you can search it up for yourself, but what happened was nothing short of horrible. Police have a record of singling out minorities as opposed to other races, with black men being 3 times more likely to be killed by police than whites, 1.3 times more likely to be unarmed, and 99% of police officers who've killed people between 2013 to 2016 not being charged with a crime. There needs to be accountability. But how? Well, first, as officers of the law and public servants, there needs to be body cameras on every cop, not only to hold them accountable to what they say, but to ensure that if people are discriminated against, there is proof of it and there can be a just decision in the courtroom. And second, all brutality cases should be overseen by a federal judge. Not only would this make the cases be heard fairly, but it would make the financial cost a deterrent for the police as well. Until that point, you, I, and everyone who's watching this video has to fight for accountability and fair laws. Otherwise, we will never change the system as it is. The two-party system. Where to begin with this one? Our country's institutions, its system of government, and the path we've taken over these close to 2.5 centuries is better than anywhere else in the world. But this doesn't mean we are without flaws. Thanks to the winner-take-all system within the Electoral College, just winning the popular vote gives you the entirety of the state's electoral votes, subtracts them for unfaithful electors. That means many are left unrepresented, and the choice between candidates narrows down between 2 people and 2 parties. But it also sets up this mindset of the lesser of 2 evils, which, aside from being a flawed mindset, also makes our country less democratic than it should be. Our government is supposed to be a representative of the people, but increasingly, as government grows and the 2 main factions stay in power, so does the money and corporate greed. Third parties, who barely have ties to lobbyists and special interests, like the 2 old parties do, are left powerless due to the system we're in, and thanks to public opinion, they aren't seen as viable. This is dangerous, and the longer it goes on, the more authoritarian our laws and institutions are going to become. But how do we fix it? Well, number 1, we need to get third parties in local offices, Congress, and the White House. Don't agree with the existing third parties? Gather people and create your own. Fight for your views, not the views of the powerful. But at the same time, Give fellow third parties the chance and vote out the major parties. Number 2, we as a people have to push money out of politics. It is my view that Citizens United and the right to use PAC money is wrong. It creates a situation where politicians will be more likely to go after the money than the constituencies they represent. A great example of this is Congress in its current form. When Congress tried to pass the HEROES Act, an 1,815-page bill that forces us as Americans to pay $3 trillion, yes, $3 trillion on so-called stimulus relief, it only drives us deeper into debt. And next to that, it gave money to museums, libraries, and took states' rights away at the same time. Oh, and you know where most of the money is allocated? Bailouts of large corporations. So yes, the American people, which includes you, your parents, friends, and more, will all be paying to bail out big corporations. It's disgusting and utterly ridiculous. Number 3, and I think everyone can agree on this, is setting up term limits for Congress. The longer politicians like Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell stay in power, the more corrupt they become. We need new faces, fresh faces, and not the type that promise change but are really backed by lobbyists and special interests. The same applies to the presidency, especially to this election where both Donald Trump and Joe Biden are paid by the rich and don't care about the will of the American people. Speaking of those two, they both support the Patriot Act, which means they've actively tried to take away your right to privacy. What I'm getting at, the two-party system only benefits the rich, the greedy, and the powerful. Meanwhile, millions of Americans are misrepresented each year, and as Democrats and Republicans stay in power, the government grows. That's why I'm asking you, the viewer, to spread the message of third parties. If you haven't voted third party before, look into them. There's the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, or if you don't agree with either one, you can create your own. Think for a second. What would you do if you could control what millions of Americans think, see, or talk about? You may think to yourself, well, that's a lot of power, and it is. Each time the media pushes for or against an issue, this is what happens and problems arise. It blatantly lies, as it's been caught many times doing. Therein lies the problem. We must have a trustworthy media, but at the same time a free media. No media will ever be truly unbiased, but if media companies are bought out by money just to push false narratives or wrongful agendas, it needs to end. And that's not even mentioning the amount of negativity and emotions they throw at the American people. Emotions give them money, give them more clicks and views, and due to the fact that many Americans simply read the title of an article rather than the entire thing, many are left with bad information. That needs to change, and we need to educate the people. Next time you see an article that interests you, read it. Read another article by another company on the same topic. Compare the difference and do the research yourself. You'll be doing a great favor by seeing how things are spun and learning what the truth is. So, here we are, a country with issues stemming from the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, not to mention the media itself. Across the country, fires burn, rioters rage, and police deploy in the thousands. No, the politicians don't care about you like I said. Yes, policing needs to be fixed and innocents mustn't be hurt anymore. We need accountability. And sadly, the majority of the media is driving an agenda against us as a people. I know, it all seems negative, but trust me, there is good in it. We still need change, however, and if we, our people, are to come out, change the system, start new parties, take back the government from the corporations and the corrupt, we don't have to deal with this pain anymore. We need big government out and a people's government in. Join me in spreading this message and bringing on a change in every way we can. Let's make America what it's meant to be. For the people, by the people, protecting the people. We the people, from my generation, from your generation, from all generations, need change, and we need it sooner rather than later. Let's do good, and let's make people happy. Thank you. One last thing before I go. If you have any suggestions, please comment down below. I know I'm really new to this. I have this free editing program. It's not the best, but, you do what you can. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, comment below. Thank you. See what I'm getting at? The two-party system only benefits the rich, the greedy, and the powerful. Meanwhile, millions of what I'm getting at? The two-party system only benefits the rich, the greedy, and the powerful. Meanwhile, millions of... Starting off with the most prevalent issue at the time of recording this, police brutality. Now, throughout our country's history, there have been many documented cases of police